we compared a panel of 10 years of longitudinal data, and we looked at a state as they increased their funding for these services, what the association was with the proportion of residents in nursing homes that could perhaps be in the community.
And in short, what you found is that home-delivered meals is a good thing in that regard.
Yes, and what we found is that states that spend more on their home-delivered meals services programs, who have increased their funding in particular, have a lower proportion of residents in nursing homes.
What's been the trend? Is state funding increasing, or is it being cut back?
Well, overall funding has, for Medicaid home and community-based services and for Older Americans Act, has been increasing overall during the past decade.
Yeah. Now, your survey precedes the beginning of the recession.
That's correct.
So
I should
it
say.
flattens out in a sense.
Yes.
So there's a very different story for the last 4 years.
That's a very good point. So our data are a decade. We use 10 years of data. So this is during 2000 through 2009. There was a steady increase in the funding that went towards Older Americans Act services, with the largest of the funding going towards home delivered meals.
Is there a sense in your community that Congress gets this? And with all the talk of reducing deficits and cutting costs, that this might be a program that could fare better than others, or is it in jeopardy?
Well, it's interesting that you ask that, because up until this study was released, there's been relatively little evidence that's shown the benefit of these programs using national data and looking at costs. So this was among the first that's really been able to show that these programs make a difference. And we've had congressional staff and an interest from a lot of different associations saying, wow, this is great that you've shown this. We've been waiting for these data. We've known this all along. We just haven't had the data to show it. So it was really exciting that we were able to do that.
On the personal side, what's it like to be a volunteer driver?
I love driving. It gives me like the warm and fuzzies to see 20 older adults every day. And I think it's really important as a researcher doing research in long-term care and aging. I really didn't want to be one of those who sort of sits in the ivory tower and just crunches numbers, but rather I wanted to have an understanding of how older adults live and the issues they face. And by being a driver, not only am I providing them with meals and companionship for a few minutes during the day, but they also provide me with an understanding of what it means to be an older American and what needs they have.
Where do you deliver?
I deliver in the Smith Hill area. So,
tell me about your best days.
My best days. My best days delivering. I have one client who always, if I miss a week because I have a meeting or a conference or I'm out of town, he always asks me if I was in jail or if they've let me out on work release, or he has a really great sense of humor. And some other best days aren't necessarily. It's kind of funny. One of my best feeling days was I had a client who had her primary caregiver had just died, and she, it was the saddest I'd ever seen this woman, and she's normally very vivacious and excited to see me and has a lot to say, and it was just so nice to be able to be there that day and sort of talk with her about it and just let her know I was thinking about her, and that was...
Well, this does bring us around to a piece of Meals on Wheels that I think is misunderstood or underappreciated, and that the meal is important, but the daily contact in some instances may be more important.
Oh, without a doubt. I definitely agree. In the case of my granny, it was really, her primary caregivers were my mother and my aunt, who both lived 2 and 4 hours away. So it was really, she didn't have daily contact. But we kind of had reassurance in the fact that knowing that she was getting these meals and someone was coming in the home when we weren't there. And Meals on Wheels does provide, volunteers do provide an outlet to the outside world for lots of older adults who are homebound and might not see another person during the day.
Are there sad things that you see?
Lots of sad things.
Such as?
Oh, yes, lots of sad things. It's just, there are lots of people who don't have family members and people who are advocates for them. And the living conditions of a lot of these older adults makes you realize how fortunate you are.
Heather Emerald at Meals on Wheels estimates the cost of eliminating the waiting list, such as it is, at about $200,000. The state of Rhode Island has an annual budget for fiscal 2013 of $8.4 billion. You're a Rhode Island taxpayer, right? Mm-hmm. Does that make sense that that budget can't accommodate $200,000 to serve the 70, 75 hungry seniors who are on the Meals on Wheels wait list?
Well, I can say I'm thankful I'm not a policymaker and have to make those decisions and decide where the budget goes. And I like to think that they're making decisions that in putting this money towards good causes. You know, and there's some reason that this small amount of money is not being put to get people off the waiting list. I like to think that there's a good reason for that. But it does seem like, especially our data show that a program as small as Meals on Wheels, it's really, I mean, it's a large program, but it's small in the fact that it's rounding error on a lot of state budgets. You know, it's really small. And so and our research shows that increasing just by a little bit for people can really improve their quality of life and potentially provide savings to states. So going back to your question, it is a little, you know, I do wish that, and perhaps they don't even know that it's such a small amount of money and they're not familiar with the needs of these older Americans, older Rhode Islanders.